Creating extraordinary success in business and life is absolutely possible. That means more income, more freedom, and more energy for what you value most without the hustle or burnout. I'm Laura Flood, certified success and high performance coach, CEO for over 30 years, and a multiple seven-figure entrepreneur. I've built a profitable, sustainable business while prioritizing my family, my health, and my happiness, and I'm here to help you do the same. This is the Redefining Success podcast, where I'll share the strategies, tools, and the mindset shifts to help you grow with intention, live a life you love, and create lasting happiness, wealth, and freedom without losing yourself in the process. Let's dive in. Hey there, welcome back to the Redefining Success podcast. I've been noticing something in my own days that I don't think we talk about enough. There are parts of your business that are already very simple. They move like clockwork and they don't really require much from you. And instead of letting that be enough, as high achievers, there's this instinct to step back in, to always be adjusting something or to check in quickly. And I think that this is where being a high achiever starts to show up in a different way, because you're used to being in it. You're thinking ahead, staying aware, and always making sure everything keeps moving. So when things are working and there's nothing immediate to do, it can feel like you really should be doing something anyway. Like you're waiting for the moment where you need to jump back in. It's almost like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it shows up as staying a little bit more engaged than you need to be, thinking about things that are already handled, or always looking for what needs your attention next. I find myself trying to add something even when nothing is asking for it. And before you know it, that something that was simple isn't really simple anymore. It didn't have to change. You just didn't let it stay that way. I've caught myself doing this so many times in small ways. Something works, and instead of just letting that be enough, my brain goes straight to how to improve it, how to reinforce something or make sure that it keeps working. And what I'm starting to see is that a lot of that pressure comes from not fully trusting when things are going well. There's this quiet expectation that something will shift, so you just stay ready for it. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about letting it be easy, especially in those moments where everything is working and your instinct is to stay on alert instead of letting yourself settle into it. What I started to notice is that it's not really about what I'm doing. It's what happens right after something goes well. When something works, or especially when something comes together quickly, or it feels lighter than you expected, there's the split second where you could just leave it there. But instead of moving on, there's this pull to stay close to it. Almost like this feels too good to be this easy. And I've caught myself in that thought so many times. Why does it feel so unsettling when things are easy? And I think it's because we've spent years building something, pushing, thinking, staying engaged, and making sure everything works. And when we do this, we just get used to a certain level of effort behind our results. You get used to earning in a very specific way. So when something works without that same level of intensity, it can feel like you skipped something, like you might be missing something and you should take another look just to be sure. And that's where I started to see it more clearly. I wasn't going back into things because they needed more from me. What I've discovered was I was going back in because I didn't fully trust that it could be easy, that it could just actually work. And when you don't trust it, you stay connected to it. You think about it again later. You check it just one more time to make sure. You keep it close enough so you feel like you're still in control of it. It's just enough so it doesn't ever fully leave you. And that's where things really start to feel heavier than they should. When you don't let yourself experience something working without needing to manage it past the point when it's already done, it's really taking up a lot of unnecessary time and energy. Once I saw that, I changed how I looked at those moments. So now when something works, I can feel that instinct to go back in. And instead of following it, I can pause and recognize that there's nothing missing. It's just working, and I can let it stay that way. So once I saw that, it made me look at things a little bit differently. I had to wonder, if I'm not fully trusting when things are working, what am I trusting? And for me, it was effort. It was the time that I spent being in it and keeping it top of mind. That's what felt comfortable. And it's just what I was used to. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they're operating from that place. There's this underlying expectation that if something matters, it should take more from you. So when it doesn't, when something comes together quickly or cleanly, it can feel a little bit off. And this is where it starts to shape your day in a way that's easy to miss, because you're not doing just what's required, you're carrying things with you after they're done. They stay in your mind and they follow you into the next thing. And honestly, they just take up space that doesn't need to be used. Over time, when we do this, it becomes your baseline. So when something actually finishes cleanly, when there's space and nothing is pulling on you, it can feel like something is missing or you should be doing something more. And that's the moment that I really want you to notice. I don't really want you to necessarily try to fix it, just to see it. See where your mind wants to go and what you feel pulled to check or think about it again. Because once you see it, you have a choice. You can go back into it like you always have, or you can leave it alone and let yourself experience what it's like when something just works and you don't have to add anything more to it. There's another layer to this that took me a minute to really see. It's not just that your mind stays active. It's that we've trained our minds to always be engaged. And for a long time, that's been the rule. We stay aware, we think ahead, keep things moving. That's how we create amazing results in our life and business. So when everything is running smoothly and there's nothing immediately asking for you, your mind doesn't just settle down and be quiet. It keeps reaching. It keeps looking for what it can do next, or where it should focus, what it should stay on top of. And that's been the pattern for so long as high achievers that it just feels normal. And this is where being around other people who are building at high levels really matters, because you start to hear the same thing. That same pull to stay engaged and that same habit of keeping things mentally close. It really puts language to something you may not have realized that you were doing. And once you see it that way, you can start working with it. One thing I've been doing is really trying to pay attention to what happens right after something goes well. Not during, when I'm in it, but after. And that's usually where the instinct kicks in to go back into that project. So I've been trying to remind myself to pause for a second and just notice. I want to really ask myself, am I about to stay in this out of habit? Because sometimes I still do, but there's times when I don't. And what I've learned is that pause, it changes everything for me. Another thing that's been helpful is letting something be done without giving it a second pass. This goes along with last week's episode a little bit about putting B- work out there, my mentor, Brooke Castillo. And, this doesn't happen every time, but I've been doing it enough that I can start to feel the difference. I've been noticing what it feels like to finish something and actually move on. And as high achievers, that can be hard. I feel that sometimes we use this as an excuse to procrastinate too. We'll keep refining a sales page or an offer or a funnel because sometimes that's easier than actually getting it out into the world. And then there are moments where there's just space, nothing urgent or nothing pulling at your attention. And that's usually, again, where our mind tries to go to find something. But instead of immediately filling that time up, I've been letting that space sit for a minute. So even just a minute, that alone starts to shift how the day feels. None of this is about forcing yourself to do less. It's really more about seeing where you're adding something that isn't required and giving yourself the chance to choose differently. What's interesting is what starts to change when you don't always follow that instinct. When something works and you just let that be enough and you don't go back in to fix it. At first, it can feel a little bit off because I know you're used to staying with things. You're used to keeping things close and thinking about them, making sure everything is still moving. So when you don't have to do that, there's a little more space than what you're used to. And again, your mind's going to notice that. It will want to go back. It'll want to re-engage. And that habit, it doesn't disappear right away. But if you don't follow that instinct and you give yourself a little space, something starts to feel different. Your attention moves forward and you're not bringing the last thing into your next thing. And there's so much less overlap in your day. This is where you finish something and it actually feels finished. That alone changes how much energy your day takes. You're not holding on to multiple things at once or revisiting things that are already moving forward. There's a better sense of what's done and what actually needs you right now. And what I noticed for myself is that there was so much more space than I expected. There was room to think and to focus, to be more intentional with where my attention was going. And it wasn't because I had less to do, I just wasn't carrying everything with me while I was doing it. And the beautiful thing is that nothing slowed down. Things kept moving and my results stayed consistent. What changed was how much of me it required to keep everything going. And that's the part that's easy to miss when you're in it. You don't realize how much energy is going into staying connected to all of those things until you start letting them just be done. And once you experience that, even in a small way, it's really hard to go back doing it the old way. What I've been thinking about more than anything lately is what this actually gives you. Because when you start to let things be easy and, everything's just starting to feel easier, there's so much more of you available. And you're going to notice it in really simple moments when you're in a conversation and you're actually there for it. You're going to see yourself moving through your day and not be pulled back into everything all at once. I didn't fully see how much I was carrying until it started to quiet down. And I've seen this with my clients in a really real way. I had a client tell me about a moment that she almost missed. She was sitting outside with her family, nothing really big going on, just a normal night. And she caught herself reaching for her phone. She was about to check in on something that was already handled. So she stopped herself for a second and realized that there's nothing waiting for her right now. Nothing needed her. And instead of going back to it, instead of opening up her phone, diving into email, checking everything again, she just stayed present in the moment. And she told me later that it felt uncomfortable at first, like she should be doing something, like she was missing something. And then it passed. And then she was just there with her family. If you're a parent, you know how fast this time is going, and you don't get those moments back. And most of the time, it's not the big things that you miss, it's all of those small, everyday moments that you're only halfway in because part of you is still somewhere else. My client's business didn't change that day. Nothing slowed down, nothing fell apart. But what did change was that she didn't leave that moment. She didn't pick up her phone and check when she didn't need to. And that's what really opens this up. You're still creating, making decisions, still running your business at a high level. You just get to be there for your life while it's happening. And when you start to feel that, even in small ways, it changes what matters. You don't want to go back to being half in your day. You really start to protect that space. And it's not by doing less. You're just finally not giving your attention to things that don't matter anymore. And that's where this really makes a difference, not just in your business, but in your life too. So, what this really comes down to is how you let yourself experience what you've already built, how you let things be easy. Because I know you've done a lot to get here. You've figured things out. You've handled so much more than most people will ever see. And at some point, it gets to feel easier. Not because you're doing less, it's just because you're not adding more to what's already required. I've been noticing how different my days feel when I let something work and I don't go back in. There's so much more space, I'm so much more present, and I actually get to enjoy parts of my day that I just used to move right past. And the important thing is, nothing's falling apart when I do that. Things keep moving. That's the part that really surprised me. So, if you're starting to see this for yourself, just stay with it. Notice those moments when something's working and just let that be enough. You don't have to keep proving yourself, you don't have to keep reinforcing it. You get to let it be easy. You've earned that. And if you want to go deeper with this, this is a big part of the work that I do inside of Redefining Success. It's not about adding more to your plate. It's about changing how everything you're already doing actually feels to run. If your business keeps pulling you back in, if you're constantly checking your phone and thinking about the next thing, you'll keep creating success, but you'll never feel like you can fully be present and actually enjoy what you've built. I help high achieving entrepreneurs who are already operating at a high level, but can't ever fully disconnect from their business. They feel like they're constantly pulled in different directions, and they don't feel like they can slow down because there's way too much that depends on their income. When we work together, we create more time, expanded capacity, consistent income, and a business that continues to produce without needing their constant attention. And I'll link some information for you in the show notes. But for now, I want you to just take this with you. I want you to focus on letting things be easy. Let something be done. Let something work, and just let yourself experience it in that way. This is where life and business becomes so much easier and so much more fun. Looking forward to seeing you in the next episode.